Hi, welcome back to Lucy and Friends. Today we are reading, you probably know, but, sorry, I should do something. Okay, but, excuse me. Okay, that's better. But, okay, I just wanted to say that we're reading Learn the Witch in the Wardrobe. Yay! I didn't mean to say but, and like that. I didn't mean to say that at all. Okay. So, I'm going to say a summary of what happened at the last chapter. Chapter 3, Edmund and the Wardrobe. The next day was another rainy day, but this time they wanted to play hide and seek for fun. Lucy wanted to see Narnia one more time during hide and seek. When Lucy went in, Edmund wanted to see what Lucy was up to. So he went in. When Edmund walked in Narnia, he met the Queen of Narnia. So now I'm going to start reading. Turkish Delight. Chapter 4, Turkish Delight. But what are you? Said the queen. Again, are you an overgrown dwarf that has cut off its beard? No, your majesty, said Edmund. I never had a beard. I'm a boy. A boy? Said she. Do you mean you're the son of Adam? Edmund stood still, saying nothing. He was too confused by this time to understand what the question meant. I see you're an idiot. However, else you may be, said the queen. Answer me once and for all, or I shall lose my patience. Are you human? Hi, Evan. And hi, Mom. Please, Your Majesty. Please, Your Majesty. May I please? Wait, no, I skipped something. Yes, Your Majesty, said Edmund. And how pray did you come into my dimensions? Please, Your Majesty. I came in through a wardrobe. A wardrobe? What do you mean? I opened the door and I found myself here, Your Majesty, said Edmund. Ah, said the queen, speaking more to herself than to him. A door from a world of men. I've heard such of things. This may wreck all, but he is only one. But he is only one. Yeah, I lost my place. But he is only one, and he is easily to deal with. As she spoke these words, she rose from her seat and looked at Edmund full in the face. Her eyes were flaming. At the same moment, she raised her wand. Why would a queen have a wand? Well, I know why. This queen does, but I can't say. Edmund sure felt like he was going to do something dreadful, but he seemed unable to move. Then, just as he gave himself up for lost, she appeared to change her mind. "My poor child," she said in quite a different voice. "How cold you look. Come and sit with me and sit on the sledge. And I will put my mantle around you, and we will talk." I wouldn't trust a stranger, like even if it's a queen. Like, seriously, would you trust her? No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. Like, seriously, I don't even know her. Edmund did not like this argument. "Oh, hi, Davius." I see you watching. The queen. Wait. You made me get distracted by saying no. He stepped into the sled. At all, but he dared not to disobey. He stepped onto the sledge and sat at her feet. Then she put a fold of her fur mantle around him and tucked it well in. "Perhaps something hot to drink," said the queen. "Should you like that?" "Yes, please, your majesty," said Edmund, whose teeth were chattering. The queen took from somewhere among her wrapping a very small bottle which looked as if it was made of copper. Then holding out her arm, she let one drop fall onto the snow beside the sledge. Edmund saw the drop in it for a second. And in midair, shining like a diamond, there was a moment it touched the snow, and there was hissing sound, and there stood a jeweled cup full of something that steamed. The dwarf immediately took this and handed it to Edmund with a bow and a smile. Not begin to sip the hot drink. It was something he never tasted before. Very sweet and foamy and creamy, and it warms right down his toes. It's dull, son of Adam, to drink without eating," said the queen presently. "What would you like to eat?" "Turkish delight, please, your majesty," said Edmund. The queen let another drop fall down from her bottle to the snow, and instantly there appeared a round box tied with green and silk ribbon, which was open. Turned out to contain several pounds of the best Turkish delight. Each piece was sweet and never tasted anything more delicious. He was warm now and very comfortable. I still want to trust her. If she gave me a whole bunch of chocolate cookies with milk, I wouldn't trust her. Oh, his beard's so long. Like, seriously. I've never seen a bigger beard. I'm like, I know he's a dwarf, but still. It says it's bigger than him. And I give you all the way down. While he was eating, the queen kept asking him questions. At first, Edmund tried to remember that it is the rule to speak with one's mouth open, but soon he forgot about this and thought only to trying to shovel down as much Turkish delight as he could. And the more he ate, the more he wanted to eat. He never asked himself why the queen should be so inquisitive. She got him to tell her that he had one brother and two sisters, and that one of his sisters had already been in Narnia and met a fawn there. There was no except himself and his brother and his sisters knew anything about Narnia. She seemed especially interested in the fact that there were 4 of them and kept on coming back to it. You are sure there are just 4 of you? She asked 2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve, neither more nor less. And Edmund, with his mouth full of Turkish delights, kept on saying, "Yes, I told you that before," and forgetting to call her Your Majesty, but she didn't seem to mind now. That's the queen right there. No, right here. Yeah, right here. With a wild hair. With the polar bears. That's her. At last, the Turkish delight was all finished, and Edmund was looking very hard at empty box and wishing that she would ask him whether he would like some more. Probably the queen knew quite well that he was thinking. Stop getting me distracted. Like this way. Yes, that's much better. It's even more distracting. That is better. Okay, I'm going to continue reading. Probably the queen knew quite well that what he was thinking, for she knew enough that Edmund what he was thinking, for she knew Edmund did not, that this was enchanted Turkish delight, and that anyone who had once tasted would want more and more of it, and would even if they were allowed to go on eating it until they killed themselves. But she did not offer him any more. Instead, she said to him, "Son of Adam, I would so much like to see your brother and your 2 sisters. Will you bring them to me?" "I'll try," said Edmund, still looking at the empty box. Because if you did come again bringing them with you, of course I'll be able to give you some more Turkish delights. And I can't do it now. The magic will only work once. In my own house, that'll be another matter. That'll be another matter. Why can't we go to your house now? Said Edmund. When he had first got onto the sleigh, he'd been afraid that she might drive away with him with some unknowing place from which he would not be able to get back. But he'd forgotten about that fear now. It's a lovely place, my house, said the Queen. The room's full of Turkish delights. And what's more, I have no children of my own. I want a nice boy I'll bring up as a prince and would be King of Narnia when I am gone. While he was prince, he would wear a gold crown and eat Turkish delights all day long. That's bad for you, like, seriously. I wouldn't eat Turkish delight all day long, even if Turkish delight sounds disgusting. It's Turkish delight all day long. And you are very much the cleverest and handsomest young man I have ever met. I think one day you'll make prince someday, and why don't you bring the others to visit me? Why not now? Said Edmund. His face has been very red, and his mouth and his fingers were sticky. He did not look either clever or handsome, whether the Queen might say. Oh, but if you took you there now, she said, I should see your brother and your sisters. I very much want to know the charming relations. You are to be prince and later the king. That is understood, but you must have counters, nobles. You will make your brother a duke and your sisters duchess. There's nothing special about them, said Edmund. And anyway, he will always bring them some other time. Ah, but once you're in my house, said the Queen, you might forget all about them. You would be enjoying yourself so much that you wouldn't want to be bothered to be going to fetch them. No, you must go back to your own country now and come to me another day with them. You understand? It's no good coming without them. But I don't even know the way back to my own country, pleased Edmund. That's easy, said the Queen. Do you see that lamp? She pointed with her wand, and Edmund turned to see the same lamppost under which Lucy had met the fawn. Straight on beyond that is the way to the world of men. And now look the other way. Here she pointed to the opposite direction. And tell me if you can see two little hills rising above the trees. I think I can, said Edmund. Well, my house is between those two hills. So next time you come, and you only to find a lamppost and look where those two hills and walk through the woods till you reach my house. But remember, you must bring the others with you. I might have to be very angry with you, and if you come alone, I will do my best, said Edmund. And by the way, said the Queen, you needn't tell them about me. It will be fun to keep it a secret between us two, wouldn't it? Make it a surprise for them. Just bring them along for two hills. A clever boy like you will easily think of some excuse for doing that, and when you come to my house, You could just say, let's see who lives here, or something like that. I am sure that would be best. If your sister had met one of the fawns, she may have heard strange stories about me. Nasty stories that might make her afraid to come to me. Fawns will say anything, you know. And now, please, said Edmund suddenly, please, couldn't I just have one piece of Turkish delight to eat on the way home? No, said the Queen with a laugh. You must wait till next time. While she spoke, she signaled to the dwarf to drive on. She snigged to drive on, but as the sledge oh my goodness. Just a second. This will be quick. It'll be quick. Okay, like I was saying, No, said the Queen with a laugh. You must wait till next time. While she spoke, I already said that. But the sledge swept away out of sight. The Queen waved to Edmund, calling out, Next time! Don't forget! Don't forget! Come soon! Edmund was still staring after the sledge when he heard someone calling his own name, and looking around, he saw Lucy coming toward him in another part of the wood. Oh, Edmund! Oh, Edmund, she cried. You've got it too! Isn't it wonderful? And now, all right, said Edmund. I see you were right, that it's magic wardrobe after all. I'll say I'm sorry if you like. But where on earth have you been all this time? I've been looking for you everywhere. If I'd known you had got in, I'd waited for you, said Lucy, who was too happy and excited to notice how snappishly Edmund spoke, or how flushed and strange his face was. I have been having lunch with dear Mr. Tumnus, the fawn, and he's very well. And the White Witch has done nothing for him for letting me go. So he thinks he has done nothing to him for letting me go. So he thinks he can't have found out, and perhaps everything is going to be all right after all. The White Witch, said Edmund. Who is she? She's a perfectly terrible person, said Lucy. She calls herself the Queen of Narnia, though she has no rights to be queen at all. And the fawns and Jareds and Nadas and dwarfs and animals, and at least who try to be good ones, simply hate her. And she can turn people into stone and all kinds of horrible things. And she has made a magic so it always winter in Narnia. So it's always winter in Narnia. Always winter. But it never gets to Christmas. And she drives about on her sledge, drawn by reindeer, with her wand in her hand and a crown on her head. Edmund was already feeling uncomfortable from having eaten too many sweets. And when he heard that lady he had made friends with was a dangerous thief, he felt more uncomfortable. But he wanted to taste the Turkish delights again, and he didn't want to do anything else. Who told you all that stuff about the White Witch? He asked Mr. Tubness the fawn, said Lucy. You can't always believe what fawns say, said Edmund, trying to sound as if you knew far more about them than Lucy. Who said so? Everyone knows it, said Edmund. Ask anybody you like. But it's a pretty poor sport standing here in the snow. Let's go home. Yes, let's, said Lucy. Oh, Edmund, I am glad you got in too. The others will have to believe I'm in Narnia and they both will be here. What fun that will be. But Edmund secretly thought that it would not be good for him for her. He would have to admit that Lucy had been right before all the others, and he felt as sure as the others would be on the other side of the fawns and the animals. But he was witch already, more than half on the side of the witch. He did not know what he would say, or how he would keep his secret once while they were talking about Narnia. By this time he had walked a good way. Then suddenly he felt coats. Around them inside the branches, and next morning they were both standing outside. Next moment they were both standing outside in a wardrobe in an empty room. I say, said Lucy, you look awful, Edmund. Don't you feel well? I am all right, said Edmund, but it was not true. He was feeling very sick. Come on then, said Lucy. Let's find the others. What a lot we shall have to tell them, and what wonderful adventures we shall have now that we're all in it together. No, we're not all in it together. You're not in it at all. Okay, and sorry, but I have to put the sticky in the thing. Okay. Okay, last sticky. And I'll put on the last chapter. Okay. One more second. Okay. Thanks for watching. Wait, no, there's questions. Thanks for watching. I was about to say bye, but there's questions. What nasty stories do you think the witch is referring to? the white Queen is referring to. Queen is referring to. Ahem. Let me see. What are we referring to? That she's mean, dreadful, turn people into stone, like that stuff. Would you keep the secret from your siblings too? No, I won't keep that secret. Okay, next question. What is Turkish delight? It says it right there under it. It says Turkish delight is a traditional flavor version of the classic Middle Eastern sweets. If you're only exposed to Turkish delight that has been sale store bought or variety, even just a reference in the Narnia books, you are in for a treat. Freshly made Turkish delight is lightly chewed, perfectly sweetened, and scented with exotic flavor of rose water. Ew, never mind. This does sound disgusting. Why do you think the White Queen doesn't mind Edmund saying "Your Majesty" after he shared at the four of them? I can't say that. Some of those questions I can't say, but I did say some of them. But I can't say it. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Hi, welcome back to Lucy and Friends. Today we are reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yay. I don't know what the poster says. But instead of reading next chapter, I am going to say what happened at the last chapter. Chapter 4, Turkish Delight. When Edmund met the Queen of Narnia, and she wanted to know about his siblings. So, Edmund told her everything. The Queen noticed that he was very hungry. That he was very cold and hungry. So, he gave him hot chocolate and Turkish delights. Soon she left. Then Edmund met Mary. What's her name? Excuse me, I forgot her name. Met Lucy. When he was trying to find his way back. Okay, now I'm going to start reading the next chapter. Chapter 5. Back on this side of the door. Yeah, that's the next chapter. Chapter 5, back on this side of the door. Because the game of hide and seek was still going on, it took Edmund and Lucy some time to find others. But when, at last, they were all together, which happened in the long room where the suit of armor was, Lucy burst out, "Peter! Susan! It's all true! Edmund has seen it too!" The name of chapter 5 is Back on This Side of the Door. That's what it is. Yeah. And we went through the wardrobe, and Edmund and I both got in. We met one another in there, in the wood. Go on, Edmund. Tell them all about it. What's all this about, Ed? Said Peter. And now we come to one of the nastiest things in this story. Up to that moment, Edmund had been feeling sick and scolding and annoyed with Lucy for being right. But he hasn't made up his mind what to do. When Peter suddenly asked him the question, he decided all at once to be the meanest and most spiteful thing he could think of. He decided to let Lucy down. "Tell us, Ed," said Susan, and Edmund gave a very superior look, as if he were far older than Lucy. There's only a year's difference. "Hi, Davius." And in a singular said in the wardrobe is true. And said, Oh yes, Lucy. I have been pretending that all her story about the country in the wardrobe is true. Just for fun, of course. There's nothing there's really. Poor Lucy gave Edmund one look and rushed out of the room. Edmund, who was becoming a nastier person every minute, thought he had scored a great success. I never get to say this word. Okay, I'm just going to skip that word. Like a victory. Yeah. A great victory. And went on at once to say, "There she goes again. What's the matter with her?" That's the worst of young kids. They always... "Look here," said Peter, turning on him savagely. "Shut up! You've been perfectly beastly to Lou ever since she started the nonsense about the wardrobe. And now you go playing games with her about and sending her off again. I believe you did it simply off of spite." "But it's all nonsense," said Edmund, very taken aback. "Of course it's all nonsense," said Peter. "That's just the point. Lou's perfectly right when we left home. But since we've been down here, she seems to be either going queer in the head or else turning the most frightful liar. But whichever it is, what good do you think you'll do by jerking and nagging at her one day and encouraging her the next?" I thought, said Edmund, but he couldn't think of anything to say. "You didn't think anything at all," said Peter. It's just spite. It's just spite. You always liked being beastly to anyone smaller than yourself. We've been seeing that at school before now." "Do stop it," said Susan. "It won't make things any better having a row between you two. Let's go and find Lucy." It was not surprising that when they found Lucy a good deal later, everyone could see that she has been crying. Nothing they could say to her made any difference. She stuck to her story and said, "I don't care what you think, and I don't care what you say. You can tell the professor, or you can write to the mother, and you can do anything you like. I know I met a fawn in there, and I wish I'd stayed there. And you are all beasts. It was an unpleasant evening. Lucy was miserable, and Edmund was beginning to feel that his plan wasn't working as well as he had expected. The two older ones were really beginning to think that Lucy was out of her mind. They stood in the passage talking about it in whispers long after she had gone to bed. The results were the next morning. They decided they would go and tell the whole thing to the professor. That they really would go and tell the whole thing to the professor. He'll write to father if he thinks there's something wrong with Blue, said Peter. It's getting beyond us. So they went and knocked at the study door, and the professor said, "Come in," and got up and found chairs for them. That he was quite disposal. They sat listening with the tips of their fingers pressed together and never interrupting till they had finished the whole story. After that, he said nothing for quite a long time. Then he cleared his throat and said the last thing. And the last thing either of them expected. "How do you know?" he said. "That your sister's story is not true." "Oh," began Susan, and then stopped. But," began Susan, but then stopped. Anyone could see from the old man's face was perfectly serious. Then Susan pulled herself up and together and said, "But Edmund said they only have been pretending." "That is a point," said the professor, which certainly deserves concentration. Very careful consideration. For instance, if you excuse me for asking the question, does your experience lead you to regard your brother or your sister as the most reliable? I mean, which is more truthful? That's just the funny thing about it, sir. That's just a funny thing about it, sir," said Peter. Up till now. Said Peter. "Up till now, I have said Lucy every time." What do you think, my dear?" said the professor, turning to Susan. "Well," said Susan, "in general, I'd say the same thing as Peter. But this couldn't be true. All this about the wood and the fawn?" "That is more than I know," said Professor. "And a charge of lying against someone whom you have always found truthful is a very serious thing, and a very serious thing indeed. We were afraid it mightn't be lying, said Susan. "We thought there might be something wrong with Lucy." "Madness, you mean?" said the professor quite coldly. "Oh, you can make your minds easy about that. One has only to look at her and talk to her to see she's not mad." But then, said Susan, and she stopped. Then she had never dreamed that a grown-up would talk like the professor and didn't know what to think. "Logic," said the professor, half to himself. "Why don't they teach logic at these schools? There are only 3 possibilities. Either your sister is telling lies, or she's mad, or she's telling the truth. You know she doesn't tell lies, and it is obvious that she is not mad. For the moment then, and unless any further advice turns up, we must assume that she's telling the truth. Susan looked at him very hard and was quite sure of making an expression on his face that was not making fun of them. "But how could it be true, sir?" said Peter. "Why do you say that?" asked the professor. "Well, for one thing," said Peter, if it was real, why doesn't everyone find in this country every time they go, why doesn't everyone find this country every time they go into his wardrobe? I mean, there was nothing there, and there's nothing there. One second. There when we looked. Even Lucy didn't pretend there was. "What has to do with it?" said the professor. "Well, sir, if things are real, they are all the time." "Are they?" said the professor, and Peter did not know quite what to say. "But there's no time," said Susan. Lucy had no time and gone anywhere, even if there was such a place. She came running after us the very moment we were out of the room. It was less than a minute, and she pretended to have been away for hours. That's the very thing that makes her story so likely to be true," said the professor. "If there is really a door in this house that leads to someone other world, and I should warn you that this is a very strange house, and even I don't know very little about it. If I say she had got into another world, I should not have been surprised to find that another world has been separate times of its own. So that's however long you stayed there, and would never take up any of our time. On the other hand, I think many girls of her age would invent that idea of it for themselves. If she had been pretending, she would have hidden the reasonable time coming out and telling a story." "But do you really mean, sir," said Peter, "that there could be other worlds all over the place, just in a corner like that?" "Nothing is more probable," said the professor, taking off his spectacles and beginning to polish them while he muttered to himself, "I wonder what they do teach them at these schools." "But what do we do?" said Susan, as she felt. Wait, I lost my spot. As she felt that the conversation was beginning to get off the point. "My dear young lady," said the professor, suddenly looking at them in a very sharp expression at both of them. at both of them. There is one plan which no one has yet suggested, and which is well worth trying. What's that? Said Susan. We might all try minding our own business, he said. And that was the end of that conversation. After this, things were a good deal better for Lucy. Peter saw it that Edmund stopped jeering at her, and neither she nor anyone else felt inclined to talk about the wardrobe at all. It had become a rather alarming subject, and so for a time it looked as if all the adventures were coming to an end, but that was not to be. The house of the professors, which even he knew so little about, and too odd and famous that people all over from England used to come and ask permission to see over it, and was the sort of house I mentioned in the guidebook and even in the histories. And well, it might be, for a matter of stories were told about it. Some of them even stranger than the one I'm telling you now. And when parties of slidesters arrive and ask to see the house, the professor always gives permission, and Miss Mackerly, the housekeeper, showed them around and telling them about the pictures and the armor and the rare books in the library. Miss Mackerly was not fond of children, and did not like to be inquired to when she was telling visitors all the things she knew. She had said to Susan and Peter almost on the first morning, along with good many instructions, and please remember your keep out of the way when I'm taking party over the house. Just as if any of them would want to waste half of the morning trailing round of a crowd of strange grown-ups, said Edmund, and the other three thought the same. That's how the adventures began for the second time. A few mornings later, Peter and Edmund were looking at a suit of armor and wondering if they could take its to bits, and when the two girls rushed in the room and said, "Look, here comes Miss Mackerly and a whole gang with her. Sharp's the word. Sharp's the word," said Peter, and all four of them went out made off through the door in the far end of the room. But when they got into a green room and beyond it, into a library, that they suddenly heard voices ahead of them, and realized that Miss Mackerly must be bringing her party slidesters back stairs instead of front stairs, as if they had expected. And after that, whether it was lost their heads, it was that they lost their heads, or Miss Mackerly was trying to catch them, or that some magic in the house had life in them, chasing them into Narnia. They seemed to find themselves being followed everywhere until at last Susan said, "Oh, bother those trippers. Here, let's go in the wardrobe room till they pass. No one will follow us in there." But the moment they were inside, they heard voices in the passage and some fumbling at the door, and then they saw the handle turning. "Quick!" said Peter. "There's nowhere else." And then he flung into the wardrobe. All four of them bundled inside and sat there panting in the dark. Peter held the door closed but did not shut it, for of course he remembered, as every sensible person does, that you should never show yourself in a wardrobe. Thanks for watching. Now I'm going to answer questions. Why do you think this house is so special? It's old. It said it's in the history books. Why does Professor saying that Lucy may be saying the truth? I can't tell her that, even if I know. Why is he lying? I don't know. Maybe you should ask him. Why is he so spiteful? I don't know. Why shouldn't you shut yourself in the wardrobe? Well, because you can't open it when you're inside the wardrobe. So it'll be pretty hard to open it in the inside. And why is it hard for Edmund to admit Lucy was right? Because Lucy was smaller than him and knew less about him. So he didn't want her to be right because he was littler than him. What's his name? Wait, I already answered that before. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hi, welcome back to News on Your Friends. Today we are reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yay! Yippee, yippee. You know what it says at the back. Okay, so right now I am going to... One second, please. I just need to do something. Couple more seconds. I am going to say what happened at the last chapter. Chapter 5. Back on this side of the door. No time has passed. No time had passed when Edmund and Lucy returned back indoors from Narnia, even though it felt like hours had passed to Lucy and Edmund. Lucy shared about all the wardrobe to Narnia and how Edmund was there too. But Edmund said the most spiteful thing ever to Lucy. He said a lie about not being in Narnia, so that made her cry. Soon, Peter and Susan told the professor about the wardrobe and Narnia, and the professor said she could be saying the truth. After they found Lucy, and the housekeeper but the housekeeper was coming, so they had to hide somewhere. They hid in the wardrobe. ... Or dun dun dun. Okay. Okay. So now I'm gonna read what the next chapter. One more second. Excuse me. Hi, Davies. now I'm going to, like I said, read the next chapter. Oh, no, I should put it here. Ow. Okay. I wish the McCurdy would hurry up and take these people away, said Susan presently. I'm getting horribly cramped. What a filthy smell of the camper, said Edmund. I accept the pockets of these coats are filled of it. Said Susan, to keep away the moths. There's something sticking in my back, said Peter. And isn't it cold? Said Susan. Now that you mention it, it is cold. And said Peter, and hang it it's all wet too. And what's the matter with this place? I'm sitting on something wet. It's getting wetter every minute. He struggled to his feet. Let's get out, said Edmund. They've gone. Ooh, said Susan suddenly, and everyone asked her what was the matter. I'm sitting against a tree, said Susan, and look, it's getting light over there. Let's see, 2 more seconds. Okay, 2 seconds passed. Wait, I already said that. By gov, you're right, said Peter. And look there, and there, it's trees all around, and this wet stuff is snow. Why, I do believe we got into Lucy's wood after all. And now there's no mistaking it. And all 4 children stood blinking in the daylight of a winter day. Behind them there were coats hanging on pegs. In front of them were snow-covered trees. Peter turned at once to Lucy. I apologize for not believing you, he said. He said, and I'm sorry. Will you shake hands? Of course, said Lucy, and did. And now, said Susan, what do we do next? Do, said Peter. Why don't we go explore the wood? Wood, of course. Said Susan, stamping her feet. It's pretty cold. What about putting on some of these coats? They're not ours, said Peter doubtfully. I'm sure nobody would mind. Yeah, she's right. There's nobody around, so nobody will obviously mind. A squirrel. What if it's with other squirrels? I've seen that on a tree. One tree. Okay, back to reading. I'm sure nobody would mind, said Susan. It isn't as if we wanted to take them out of that house. I never thought of that, Sue, said Peter. Of course, now that you put it that way, I see. No one could say you bagged the coat as long as you leave it in the wardrobe where you found it. And I suppose this whole country is in the wardrobe. They immediately carried out Susan's very sensible plan. The coats were rather too big for them, so that they came down to their heels and looked and looked more like royal robes than coats, and they had put them on. But they all felt a good deal warmer, and each thought the others looked better in their get-ups and more suitable to the landscape. "We can pretend we are Arctic explorers," said Lucy. I'm going to be exciting enough without pretending." "This is going to be exciting enough without pretending," said Peter, as he began leading to the way forward in the forest. Then there were heavy, darkish clouds overhead, and it looked as if there might be some snow before night. "I say," began Edmund presently, "oughtn't we be pairing up a bit more to the left, and that is, we are aiming for the lamppost?" He had forgotten the moment that he pretended to never have been in the wood before. The moment the words were in his mouth, he realized that he had given himself away. Everyone stopped. Everyone stared at him. Peter whistled. "So you really were here," he said. "That time Lou said she met you in here and you made out she was telling lies." There was a dead silence. Well, of all these whatever this word is, little beasts, said Peter, and he shrugged his shoulders and said no more. There seemed indeed no more to say, and presently the four resumed their journey. But Edmund was saying to himself, "I pray you all out of this. I back of stuck-up, self-satisfied bridge." "Where are we going, anyway?" said Susan, cheerfully, for the sake of changing the subject. "I think Lou ought to be the leader," said Peter. "Goodness knows she deserves it. Where will you take us, Lou?" "What about to go see Mr. Tubness?" said Lucy. "He's a nice fawn I told you about." Everyone agreed to this, and off they went, walking briskly and stamping their feet. Lucy provided a good leader. At first she wondered whether she would be able to find the way, but she recognized an odd-looking tree in one place and a stump in another, and brought them where the ground became even, and a little valley, and at last the very door of Mr. Tubness's cave. But I lost my spot. I got distracted again. But there was a terrible surprise awaited them. The door had been wrenched off its hinges and broken to bits. Inside, the cave was dark and cold and damp, full of a small place that had not been lived in for several days. Snow had drifted in, and a doorway was heaped on the floor, mixing with some black, which turned out to be shredded sticks and ashes from the fire. Oh my. Someone had apparently flung it about the room and stamped it out. The cookery lay smashed on the floor, and the picture of the fawn's father had been smashed into shreds with a knife. "This is a pretty good washout," said Edmund, but not much good coming here." "What is this?" said Peter. Stooping down as he noticed a piece of paper which had been nailed on the carpet floor. Miss Pisani. Wait, the picture. This is not okay. Perfect. See all the bits on the floor and the door. Okay. Now I left off. There's a note. Is there anything written on it? Asked Susan. Yes, I think there is, answered Peter, but I can't read it in this light. Let's get out into the open air. They all went out in the daylight and crowded around Peter as if he read out the following words. The former competence of these premises, Fawn Tubness is under arrest for waiting his trial of charge high treason against Imperial Mistress Jadis, Queen Jadis, her Imperious Mistress Jadis, Queen of Narnia, Chantilly of Chair Parvel, Empress of Lone Islands, etc. Also, comforting that her said Majesty's enemies holding spies and fact-testing with humans. Signed, Marge, Captain of Secret Police. Long live the Queen! Yeah, that's what it says. Right there. On the note. The children stared at each other. I don't know what I'm going to like this place after all, said Susan. Who is this Queen, Lou? Said Peter. Do you know anything about her? She isn't a real queen at all, answered Lucy. She's a horrible witch. The White Witch. Everyone, all the wood people hate her. Don't say that, Evan. I don't even like the Queen. She made an enchantment over the whole country, so that is always winter here and never Christmas. I wonder if there's any point it's going on, said Susan. I mean, it doesn't seem particularly safe here, and it looks as if it won't be much fun either. And it's getting colder every minute, and we brought nothing to eat. What about just going home? Oh, but we can't. We can't, said Lucy, and suddenly, don't you see? We can't just go home. Not after this. It's all on my counts that poor Fawn had gotten into this trouble. He hid me from the witch and showed me the way back. That's what it means for comforting the Queen's enemies and franchising with humans. He simply must try to rescue him. That was a speech. So, this long on the paper, and there's tiny words. A lot we could do, said Edmund. When we haven't even got anything to eat. Shut up, you, said Peter, who was so very angry with Edmund. What do you think, Susan? I've got a horrid feeling that Lou is right, said Susan. I don't want to step further and wish we'd never come. But I think we must try to do something for Mr. whatever his name is. I mean, the Fawn. That's what I feel too, said Peter. But I'm worried about having no food with us. I'd vote for going back and getting something fun from the larder. only there doesn't seem to be any certainty of getting into this country, anything when once you've got out of it. I think we'll have to go on. So do I, said both of the girls. If we knew where the poor chap was imprisoned, said Peter. They all so looked to do next. And when Lucy said, "Look, there's a robin with such a red breast. It's the first bird I've ever seen here. I say, I wonder if birds can talk in Narnia. It almost looks like if he wanted to say something to us." Then she turned to Robin and said, "Please, can you tell us where Tumnus and the fawn had been taken to?" As she said that, she took a step forward at the bird. It at once flew away, but not as far as the next tree. Then it perched up and heard, then, as if to understand all that they had been saying, almost without noticing they had done so. The 4 children went a step or two near to it, and the robin flew away again to the next tree, then more, and the more next tree. And once the robin flew away to the next tree, and once more it looked at them very hard. You couldn't have found a robin with a redder chest and a brighter eye. "You don't know," said Lucy. "Do you know?" said Lucy. "I believe he means to follow him. I have an idea. I've an idea he does," said Susan. "What do you think, Peter?" We'll might as well try it, answered Peter. The robin appeared to understand this matter thoughtfully. It kept going to tree, always a few yards ahead of them, but always so near that on slightly downhill where the robin's light a little shower of snow would fall off the branch. Presently the clouds parted overhead in the winter, and the sun came out, and the snow all around them grew dazzling bright. They had been traveling in a way about half an hour, and 2 of the girls in front, and Edmund said to Peter, "If you're not still too high and mighty to talk to me, I've something to say with you, and you better listen." "What is it?" asked Peter. "Hush, not so loud," said Edmund. "There's no good of frightening the girls." "But have you realized what we're doing?" "What?" said Peter, lowering his voice and whisper. "We're following a guy we know nothing about. How do we know which side that bird is on? Why shouldn't it be leading into us a trap?" "That's a nasty idea. Still a robin, you know. Good birds in all stories I've ever read. I'm sure the robin would not be on the wrong side. If it comes to that, the fawns are in the right, and the queen, yes, I know she's told she's a witch, and is wrong, and we don't really know anything about either. The fawn saved Lucy, and he said he did. But how do we know? And there's another thing too. Has anyone the least idea the way home from here?" "Great Scott," said Peter. "It hadn't thought of that." "And no chance of dinner either," said Edmund. See the robin? Looks like he's pecking his foot. Something. Or clipping his toenail. Okay. Thanks for watching. Now I'm going to answer some questions. What did Peter tell Edmund? To not worry which side the robin is on. What did Robin tell him? He went from tree to tree to show them a way to where the Mr. Tubness is left. Why is he called Mr. whatever his name is? Well, he's not. He's Mr. Tubness, but Susan did not know his name, so she said whatever his name is. Mr. whatever his name is. Who's the queen? There's no queen, really. So, who's the witch? Jadis. That's the witch. The mean. Nobody likes witch. Nobody. Not even the trees. Okay. So thanks for watching. And